You're tuning in to the Goldilocks presentation of the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show with Anthony Rodriguez. Anthony Rodriguez, aka Walking Crow, found transformational energy healing through a personal search into healing and was transformed by this experience. He made the decision to pursue training and has since become a certified energy healing practitioner with an emphasis on working with clients in recovery from addiction. His willingness to be open and listen has allowed him to be of service to many who seek a peaceful, serene, and healthier body, mind, and spirit. Call in now if you would like to speak with Anthony. The call-in number is 713-955-0332. Enjoy this transformational and healing show.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show. It's Tuesday again, and this is another Tuesday edition of the show. My name is Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow, and I'm your host. And today we're going to be talking about healing and recovery and from alcohol and drug addiction, and what it's like to come into your consciousness and come out of your unconsciousness when you're getting sober and trying to stay sober and trying to live a life that is valuable and has value, and where you develop self-worth and self-esteem in a way that's good for you and good for those around you, and that you are able to share your story and your growth and your spirituality in a way that helps others. 713-955-0332 is a call-in number. Push 1 to get out of listen mode. We'd love to have your questions. We'd love to have your answers. We'd love to have your statements. We'd love to have whatever it is that you would like to say or share with us. It's been an interesting week. We wrapped up the seven chakras last week with the crown chakra, and with a wonderful call from a gentleman in Virginia. And I was grateful to have that call, and I was grateful that he got the help that he needed. And if you need the help, feel free to call in. You don't just have to call into this number during the show. You can reach me after the show or outside of the show at anthony@sacreddrummedicine.com, or you can go to my website at sacreddrum24.weebly.com, or you can reach me at my office number, which is area code 818-442-1717. So getting sober and staying sober, this is something that not everybody needs to get sober. Not everybody needs to stay sober. Not everybody's an alcoholic, and not everybody's a drug addict. Even if you find yourself in the rooms of the 12-step program, not everybody is that. And don't be fooled by those who want you to be just like them. If you are, great, and if you stick around and you decide to get sober and stay sober and change your life, fantastic. But if you're not an alcoholic or a drug addict and you're somebody who uses recreationally or has used, don't be fooled by the rhetoric. Don't get sucked in by it. And sometimes it's a good thing that you do. I'll say that. But sometimes if you don't belong, you don't belong. I'm the first person to say that. But I will also say to those who keep coming in and out, and those who can stay sober, those who can stay clean, you just may this time yourself to death. This time, this time I'm gonna. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this time over my 25 years of sobriety and being clean. I've been clean and sober for 25 years. And I've walked this life, but I've walked through things that nobody should have to, but I do anyways. And, some people would use over the stuff that I've walked, or drink over the stuff that I've walked through. And I haven't found a reason to. And that's a blessing. So I get to be an example of, how you walk through sobriety, regardless of how life shows up. And how do you want to walk through your sobriety? How do you want to be living in your skin, if you will? And can you live in your skin? And do you live in your skin? Are you able to tap into the 12 steps and the 12 traditions and into the big book and into sponsorship, being sponsored and sponsoring others in a way that you're willing to give of yourself? Be selfless instead of selfish, because I believe that using and drinking is a selfish act. When you can't stop, you stop loving yourself. You stop caring about yourself. You have no consciousness or awareness of what it is that you could be and your potential. Dr. Bill W., one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, writes in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that, we have extraordinary talents, those of us who are alcoholics or sober, and, he likes to blow smoke up his own backside. Bill did, and because he was a salesman, he was a big shot. He suffered from big shotism, and although Bob stayed sober, Dr. Bob stayed sober, Bill battled with it, and Bill, had to take psychedelics, and he had to do other things to try to find his way. So I don't play with it. I don't get carried away with, my ego. There's sobriety is not a place for ego. Sobriety is a place for humility. Sobriety is a place for spirituality. For sobriety and staying clean is a place for helping others and sharing the gifts that were freely given unto you. If you have picked up the spiritual kit of tools that Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous and OA How provide for you, are you willing to pick up the spiritual kit of tools? I hope. Now, I have to tell you that this morning I met with a gentleman who I actually met in when I was at the Lionheart Institute of Transpersonal Energy Healing. His name is Chris, and I was already finished with my program there and already received my certificate, and I was already working as a healer when I met him. But him and I met there. Then I found out, I don't know how I found out, that he was sober for quite a few years. And then I started seeing him in meetings, and we would say hello. We really wouldn't talk a lot, but we had a kinship because of the energy healing, and we had a kinship because of sobriety. And, he's moving back to Rochester, New York to live with his daughter, to be with his daughter, and kind of a living amends. And, he reached out to me and said he wanted to meet with me before he left. And I was really kind of surprised and taken aback because we weren't really close or anything. And today, as I sat with him for an hour and a half, if not more, I knew exactly why he wanted to see me. This man is a medicine man. He's a medicine man of his own kind, of an extraordinary kind. And one of the things he said to me about sobriety, about his sobriety, that along the way, along his path, he learned that it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough to be sober. There needed to be a deeper spiritual component to his sobriety. And I agreed. I concurred, because I believe that, because the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, or the 12 steps of CA or NA or OA How, weren't enough for me. They weren't enough for me. I had to dig deeper. I had to do investigate my life deeper, and I had to do my birth story with my mother, and I had to do early life story with my mother, and I had to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mommy issue that I lived a lifetime with. And yes, you heard me say it. I had to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mommy issue that I carried around inside me and around me for a lifetime, and I no longer carry that issue in my tissue. I have transcended a place of transformation. I have transmuted, transitioned, and transcended that place that was a pain, a hurt, a wound so deep in my soul that I didn't know how to fix it. And over the years, Creator, Great Spirit, and the people who surround me and help me in a good way taught me how to find the words and how to find the way to uncover and discover and embrace those issues in a different way, instead of avoid them like a plague, avoid them like a sickness, avoid them like a dis-ease. I no longer avoid those things. I greet those things and I meet them in a good way, and I listen to the stories that my mother had to tell me. I listened, and even when she said, you need to stop this. This isn't good, because she thought I was trying to blame. And what she didn't understand was I was uncovering the magic and the medicine that was hers and my relationship coming together. At 24 years of sobriety, at 23 years of sobriety, it took that long in my sobriety for me to get to that place. I've only been a medicine man for 2 or 3 years, 4 years. You know, I've been practicing as an energy healer for the last 5 years, since 2012. So a lot of this stuff is relatively new, but a lot of what I teach is downloaded to me. A lot of what I teach, it comes from my lineage. A lot of what I teach, if not everything I teach, comes from the lifetimes of being a practicing medicine man in other places, in other dimensions, at other times. And what is it that you want to practice? Do you want to practice just through sobriety? Do you want to practice be able to be still and not melt down every time somebody says something to you? I have to tell you, I know who of my friends out there on social media is going to meetings and who's doing what, and I know who's not, because I watch their meltdowns on social media. I watch the things they say, and I hear the things they say, and I hear the parroting that they do. And there's a lot of parrots out there. I'm not a parrot. I'm not a parrot to anybody or anything. I hope I find my own medicine within the medicine, and I make it my own. Aho. I mean, I was told that by one of my elders. Find your own medicine. Make your own medicine. And I have, and I do. But I also seek out other medicines. You know, I belong to Circolo, a men's circle. I've created my own men's circle, miscellaneous men and self-care. You know, I don't just sit idly by in my sobriety and go to meetings and not do anything else. Nope, no siree. You know, I do my daily 10 steps, excuse me. And I go to meetings and I meet with others like today. I sit down with other alcoholics and other addicts and we have conversations openly. And we talk about the things that hurt us, and I talk about the things that help us and the things that will fix us and the things that'll heal us, not the things that'll keep us sick. There's a few years ago, I was going to meetings in the Glendale area of California, Atwater Village area. And there was a gentleman there that would come in every day, and he was always dressed like a hobo. And his teeth were all broken, and he was sober, but he was always sharing things like, I need to run to a meeting. I really need a meeting. And, you know, this guy looks like he should have been drinking. And I told him one day, you know, you should let me buy you a drink because you really need to drink. You need to, like, take a bath, brush your teeth, take care of yourself, put on some clean clothes and show up and stand in sobriety. Don't be coming here spreading poison. There's people who go into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and they're well-meaning, and they spread poison in those rooms. They spread poison to their sponsees. They try to find sponsors that will validate their nonsense. I don't know if I'm a very successful sponsor at all, but I've only sponsored about 4 or 5 people over my 25 years of sobriety, and I only sponsor one right now. And one of the reasons I don't probably is because I don't validate their BS, their nonsense. Because there's a lot of sick people walking around in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and OA How Anonymous that are looking for somebody to validate their stuff, and they find them. They absolutely find them. I will not validate your nonsense. I will not validate your poison. I will buy you your first drink if that's what you really need to go do. I will help you out because there's somebody who needs the seat that you're sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous that really wants sobriety. And I know what that looks like. And it was sitting across the table from me this morning at 10 o'clock, that medicine man. He sat across from me and we talked about sobriety. He sat across from me and he talked about his mother. He talked about his father. He talked about his daughter. He talked about the places he lived. He talked about the sweet story about growing up and learning about dinosaurs and reading about the La Brea tar pits. And he told me today that he went there. He went to the La Brea tar pits and lived a dream, a sweet childlike dream. And he said he was so tickled and thrilled to be there. And I honored that. That's a great thing. And that may seem like a simple and trite thing to some people, but to this man who lived a lifetime dream and who lived and survived his alcoholism and lives a sober life in his sobriety, went and lived his dream. How many of you are willing to do that? How many of you are willing to live your dream? How many of you are willing to speak your dream? How many are willing to step out into the discomfort of what it is that you really want while you're being judged by others. And that's me. I am severely judged by people because I choose the path that I've chosen. Is it a good thing? I don't know. Have I suffered? Yes. Could I have done a better job and made a different decision? Probably. But guess what? There's a peace inside me that supersedes all of that. There's a peace inside me that supersedes all of that. And I always say that it's the peace in me that's the peace in me. Aho. Aho. And I live my life in gratitude no matter what happens, because I find the lesson, I find the medicine, and I find the healing in everything, even if it's difficult. And this weekend was a prime example of that. You know, I hit a wall. I hit an emotional wall. I hit an emotional, I don't know if I want to say an emotional rock bottom, but I got to a place where I reached out for help on social media, and I used 3 words that said, I need help. And guess what? Help came. Help showed up in a big way, and you know, and it showed up in 1,000 ways, with kind words and extended arms and extended hands and handshakes and hugs and hearts and all kinds of ways. And you know what? I got through that time. I'm a medicine man. I'm a shaman. I do this work that I do, but I don't do it alone. I didn't get to point B by myself, having a big ego and not being able to ask for help. I ask for help because I need to have help, and I need you. Aho. I am Wolf. Wolf is solitary, and Wolf needs the pack. When will you learn that? Aho. There's a lot of people that are running around solitary in their egos and pride in the 12-step rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, and Narcotics Anonymous, and you see the egos. You know, they sit by themselves in the corner with their back against the walls and make sure nobody's coming in. And they're checking everybody out. It's like, you know, relax, have fun, you know. And you see those people who are, you know, hold their face in their hands and, you know, and you wonder what's wrong with them. And then they open their mouth and they talk about how happy they are. And, you know, they need to be reminded that they need to tell their face how happy they are. Sobriety, being clean and being sober, and being clean in your food, if you're from OA How, can be a wonderful experience if you're willing to go for the ride. If you're willing to do what it is, whatever it is that it takes to come into that space and be happy, joyous, and free. Did you hear what I said? Happy, joyous, and free. It's on the outside of that triangle, that circle with the triangle in it. Happy, joyous, and free. Aho. Singleness of purpose. What is your singleness of purpose? 713-955-0332 is our call-in number. And dial 1, hit 1 to come out of listen mode. That way my producer, Tiffany White, knows that you want to talk to me. And speaking of Tiffany White, I want to take a minute just to say thank you to Tiffany. She does such a great job promoting us and trying to get more people to hear our shows and to see our shows. And she's got her own schedule of shows that she does, radio and television. And I'm amazed at the work that she does for us. And she keeps this ship going. And so Tiffany White, stage woman, I thank you. Another medicine woman, another shaman, another healer, you know, and of an extraordinary kind. And there are many of us. And some of you haven't come into your medicine. Some of you haven't come into your shamanism. Some of you haven't come into the things that you're going to do that are going to change the lives of hundreds and thousands of others, if not millions of others. You know, I know that I change the lives of millions of people, one person at a time, one voice at a time, one conversation at a time, one hug at a time, one handshake at a time, one word at a time. What is the word that you need to hear? What is the word that you need to share so you can take your sobriety and your recovery to a deeper level? What is it? What will you need to hear? What will you need to say? I'm here to hear you. I'm here to hold you. I'm here to stand with you and support you in your root, in your fire, your fuego, in your connection to yourself, in connection to me, in your connection to others, in recovery, in your moment of me too, you too, me too, relating to the stories that you understand to be true because you experienced the story yourself. And that's where the rub comes in recovery. Whether you're in Alcoholics Anonymous, whether you're in Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous, or OA How. Wherever you are, wherever you land, recovery is recovery. And how are you willing to embrace it? And do you embrace it? Are you there hiding out from the police? Are you there hiding out from gangs? Are you there hiding out from your wife? Are you there hiding out from your husband? You know, are you there having extracurricular activity, marriage activity that you shouldn't be having because, you know, you're not living a sober life? And yes, I just called that out because there's nothing sober about behaving that way. I know I did that, and it's not okay. You know, and I have to come clean, and I've had to come clean over a lifetime of sobriety. 25 plus years I've been sober. That's no easy feat. That's no easy task, but I've done it because I became willing. I became willing to love my sobriety more than I became willing to love my drinking, to love the party, to love the pain, the hurt, the wound. I had to give up my wound and give of my wound so others can stay sober. You know, there's people that no longer talk to me because I talk the way I do. They make it about, they say it's a spiritual program, but they make it about religion and dogma. I don't give a crap about your dogma. I don't want to know about your dogma. Dogma doesn't save anybody. Yeah, it did save some people, but it keeps you in judgment. And if you're in judgment over dogma, you are not saving yourself. You are holding yourself hostage. You are a slave to yourself. You are a slave to your God. You're not even connected to God if you're a slave to dogma. And being sober, clean and sober, and in recovery is not about dogma. It's about duma, about doing. It's about love. It's about an action. Love is an action. It's about doing. What are you doing today to help others? What are you doing today to help yourself? What are you doing to give in and of yourself to yourself and to others? What is it that you're doing? And I ask those what questions all the time. I ask those why questions all the time. 713-955-0332. You're listening to the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show with myself, your host, Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow. Love for you to call in. Love for anybody to call in and just say, hey, Anthony, how you doing? And, you know, the conversation I had with, and I'm going to tell you something. Never mind the conversation that I had earlier today, but when I reached out for help the other day, which I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous, I learned how to reach out and ask for help because sometimes help needs help. I help a lot of people, but there also comes a time when I'm not able to help myself. You know, so you know I'll help others and I'll do what I have to do, and I live and I stand in my recovery. You know, and you hear me quote the Big Book all the time on this radio show, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you have no idea it's the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I say things like, I have recovered, I have transformed from the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, when the line is actually in the book, I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Yes, I have recovered, but then I have transformed from the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and I have evolved, and I've gone from being steel to being iron, from being in the fire. I have alchemized. I have shape-shifted. I am Walking Crow. I shape-shift. I'm the shape-shifter. I have shape-shifted emotionally, psychologically, physically. And I showed that to Chris, the young man I was with earlier today, the medicine man. I talked about transformation and shape-shifting, and I showed him my license where I was 238 pounds, and he's looking at a man that's 160 and doesn't look like he's ever been 238. I have shape-shifted and alchemized my life and my body, my physical, my spiritual, my emotional, into a place that's transformed and transitioned and transcended and transmuted. And all because, you know, I got pulled over one night, and I went before Judge Michael Knight at Division 101 at the Van Nuys Muni Court. You know, and he gave me a $350 fine. He sent me to community service, and I got out of both of those things because I had some friends at the time. But he also sent me to 26 meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know, I probably could have signed my own court card and done that sort of thing. But something to me said that I would get caught doing that. So for some reason, and I don't know why, well, I know now, but I didn't know why then, I showed up to day 27. And I always say that day 27 is my best day ever in Alcoholics Anonymous, because I no longer had to be there, and I made a choice to stay. I made a choice to change my life and keep changing my life every time I showed up, every minute I showed up, every hour I showed up, every day I showed up, every week, every month, every year, every decade after decade after decade, like my sponsor said. I hope. I do pair up my sponsor because he says some good stuff. And I have to tell you, I will tell you people, high human. That's where I learned high human from. He's the man that said it to me. You know, when I got angry, and then I had to laugh at myself because, you know, I was taking myself way too seriously. Oh. And I have to tell you, I chased sobriety in an odd way because I had some friends in sobriety who we got sober together. There was a group of us, and I had one in particular named Corey. And Corey lives down in Carlsbad now. Corey's from Carlsbad. How about that? And I would call her about 10 o'clock at night, maybe later, right before, you know, it was getting pretty late. And her and I would have conversations. And at one point in the conversation, I would say, well, Corey, I'm going to bed now. I didn't drink today, and neither did you. Good night. And she would thank me, and she would say good night, and we'd go to bed. And we did that all the time, you know. It was part of our ritual. And I'm grateful for my friend Corey. She just turned 25 this month in April, at the beginning of the month. And I'm grateful for her because she's one of the few people in my life, and I do have to say this, she's one of the few people in my life who has loved me unconditionally for the last 25 years. She doesn't care what I've done. She doesn't care how many times I've been married. She doesn't care how many women I've been with. She doesn't care how angry I've gotten, how sad I've gotten, how hurt I've gotten, how wounded I've gotten, how shamed I've been. She loves me because she gives freely. Freely she gives, and she loves me only because she's my friend, and I am her friend, and I love her irregardless of the decisions she makes in her life. Her decisions are none of my business. My business is to help her stay sober, help another alcoholic, and to stay sober. That's all I have to do for myself and for people like Corey. So I'm grateful to my friend Corey, and I'm thankful that she stays in my life. And there's very few people like her in my life. You know, there's another friend of mine who met me right before I got sober. Her name is Laura Macias. She's one of my closest and dearest friends. And she's the one person that I would take a bullet for. I say that all the time. And I don't say that so other people could be offended or get hurt and think that I may not love them. But Laura didn't have to stand by my side. She didn't have to be my friend. I didn't want anything from Laura. If you see Laura, she's really cute and she's really pretty. And, you know, that's not what I wanted from her. I wanted friendship. I wanted somebody to stand with me and stand by me, stand behind me, stand in front of me, stand next to me. I hope. And she has done that. So when I say I'm willing to take a bullet for somebody like my friend Laura Macias, you know it to be true. And she knows it to be true. And she's an amazing human being. Aho. Anyways, so what is it that you want? And how do you want to be in your sobriety? And are you being truthful in your sobriety? Are you being loving in your sobriety? Are you being fair to others in sobriety? Or are you busy judging how others live their sobriety? I judge people how they live their sobriety because I want to want what you have. If you don't have what I want, I'm going to move on to the next person because there are people who have a lot to offer. And if you have nothing to offer, why are you here? You know? Why are you here? The Apostle Paul says, and this isn't about religion, the Apostle Paul says, if you come to a town and they don't want to listen to what you have to say, clean the dust off of your clothes of that town and move on to the next. I hope. Because there are those who want to hear what I have to say. There are those who want to share with me what their life has been like, what their sobriety has been like, what their recovery has been like. And are you in recovery really? Or have you just stopped drinking and you're scratching your arms and scratching your butt and scratching your head because you're looking for a way to drink? You're looking for a way to fix with a needle. You're looking for a way to smoke pot. You're looking for a way to do things that aren't good for you and that are detrimental, have been detrimental to your life and will be detrimental to your life and the lives of others because your lack of sobriety just doesn't affect you. It affects the people around you. Your family, if you have any left. Your friends, if you have any left. Your job, if you have a job left. You know, it'll affect all those things. So stand in your power, stand in your root. Be rooted and be fruited. You know, today Chris asked me something he asked me, I wished him well on his journey. He asked me what he could do for me before he left. And I was touched deeply by that question. And all I said to him was, stay sober and keep doing what you're doing. Keep seeking and keep looking for that way to peace. Give that to yourself, because we owe it to ourselves to be that, to be of that, to be in that, And I was so proud of that man. And I think we might be about the same age. I don't know. I'm not sure. But, I could tell by the way he looked at me, because Chris is a good man. He was proud of me. And I know that he could tell by the way I looked at him that I was proud of him, because here was a man who had been through a lot. Here is a man who put himself through a lot. And we talked about his father, and we talked about his mother. And I was able to tell him, your father is proud of you. Your father is living a sober life and a healthy life through you, because you're sober and healthy and living the life that you live. You're the example of what your father couldn't do or be that, and be in the good news that he is with you, and he is with you always, and he understands. Aho, mitakiyasi. Aho. And I'm laughing because Chris asked me, what does aho mean? He says, what is aho? He mumbled mitakiyasi. He didn't know how to say that. And I explained to him what that meant. Thank you, Creator Great Spirit. Thank you, Creator Great Spirit. Thank you, Creator Great Spirit. Aho. Duality of divine feminine, divine masculine, the duality of giving and receiving and giving, and but not taking. And I shared with Chris how I've been catapulted into the fourth dimension thousands of times, and my life has gotten better. And to some people, it doesn't look like it, but it does to me. I'm struggling with my employment right now, and yes, does that bother me? Yes. Does it hurt? Yes. But guess what? There's a lot of other parts of my life that are very peaceful, that are very quiet, that are very healthy. And there's a lot of people who can't say that. They have a great job, and they're unhappy, and they're disgruntled, and they're grumbling, and they might be sober, and they might be clean. But what is it you really want for yourself? I'm not saying not to have a job. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is, how do you show up to your job? How do you show up for others? How do you show up for yourself? And do you want to learn how? Because not everything is in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not everything is in the 12 and 12 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not everything is in the meanings of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not everything is in the sponsoring of Alcoholics Anonymous, and not everything is in the sponsorship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And Chris learned that over the last 10 years, since the time that him and I met. He has learned that there's a deeper level that can be achieved of happiness, of being spiritual, and being joyous, happy, joyous, and free, that transcends anything that the 12 steps in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous can offer. There are people who find the kindness and the freedom and the joy in Alcoholics Anonymous as well. But as Chris found out, and as he shared with me, there's something deeper. And as I shared with him, there is something deeper. We were able to talk about disappointment today with a place where we actually met originally. We were both disappointed in the way they did business, because it was misleading, and we both understood that, and we both have put distance between ourselves and them. It doesn't mean they're a bad organization. It just means they need to maybe change something, But I recommend people to go there to learn how to do what it is that I do, to learn how it is that Chris learned to do there, as far as being an energy healer, as being a medicine. They sent us down a path, and I didn't know what the path was going to look like. I thought, I'll just be an energy healer, and I'll put my hands on people every now and again. And I didn't know that I was going to be mentoring people. I didn't know that I was going to be fathering people. And I don't mean having children, but fathering people who don't have fathers, who don't have family. I didn't know that I was going to be able to talk to millions of people and thousands of people and use my voice as a way of healing. And use my intention as a way of healing without a massage table, without crystals, without candles, without sage, without a lot of things that I still use on a daily basis. But I don't need these things to do the work that I do. I don't need these things to do the work that I do because I set my intention and I stand in my power and I stand in and of who I am. Who I am, who Anthony is, as a medicine man, as a healer, as a sober man, as a sober man from Alcoholics Anonymous, as a clean person from Cocaine Anonymous. I stand in that power, and I stand in that power with God. And I'm not talking about the kind of power where you puff your chest up and you beat your chest and say, "I'm here." No. I'm talking about the power of humility, the power and strength of loving, the power of strength of caring. You know, I have a friend named Angela who's in Ashland, Oregon, and right now she's very sick. She just exhausted herself and she's sick. And you know, I sent her a message right before I went on the air that said, "I wish there was more I could do. I wish I could be there and make her soup, or you know, make her tea, or you know, put a blanket on her, or close the window, or open the window, or do whatever it is that she may need, but I can't, you know," and that's what I'm willing to do for a friend like that, for anybody. She's a medicine woman. She's a priestess. She's a shaman. She is who she is, and I would do that for any of my teachers, masters, shamans. You know, whether it's Jeannie Love, Master Seal, whether it's Emma, whether it's Deborah, whether it's whoever, Marsh Engel, you know, I would do that for them because they deserve to be taken care of like I've been taken care of. And I'm willing to go the extra mile. And I wish I could be there, but I'm not. I'm here in Los Angeles, not in Ashland, Oregon. So, Angela, if you're out there, you may or may not be listening. I don't think you listen to my show, but I hope you feel better. And now everybody who listens to this show knows that you're ill, and hopefully they'll set an intention and send you healing in a good way. I hope, like I just did. Be still and know. Be still and know the Creator is. That's something I learned in my sobriety. Be still. It's not easy to stand still. It's not easy to stand still when you don't know where your next meal is coming from. It's not easy to stand still when you have to make a car payment or a house payment or rent. It's not easy to stand still when your husband or wife has left because they don't know how to be with you in the way that you are. And I don't know if that's the gift or if that's the wound, but, you know, be still and know that Creator is a whole. Because living a sober life isn't always about drinking or not drinking, using or not using, smoking or not smoking, eating or not eating. Living a sober life is about living in a peace and being able to stand in a place of peace that's so deep that you don't get rocked. You don't get rocked by every little thing that happens. And that's what I'm talking about when I say be rooted and fruited. Be rooted and fruited, because I'm rooted and I'm fruited. And although there's a lot of things in my life that I don't have, my friend Chris, that medicine man, was able to sit with me, and he was able to nest in my branches. And he was able to eat of my fruit and partake of the experience that I've had over the last 25 years, if not my lifetime, I hope. And I was glad to share with him. Freely, freely I give. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks about that. Freely, freely I give. Not everything is about money. But there's people who will make everything about money, and it can't always be that way. You know, last night I was at work and I was in the aisle and I was talking to a young lady, and she said, you don't make money when you help people here. I said, yes, but sometimes it's not about money. Sometimes people need the help no matter what's happening, no matter what's going on. Sometimes people just need help, and it's the right thing to do. It's always the right thing to do, whether they're, writing a check to me or not. It's always the right thing to do. People who come to my events, there's nothing set in stone that says you have to pay X. I thank people when they pay for my events, but if they can't afford to, I want them to come because they may need what it is we have to offer. I may need what it is they have to offer, what they bring to the table. We never know what people are going to say. and how they're going to say it and how they're going to share it and how they're going to be with us in a good way, aho, in the way of medicine, aho, in the way of word, palabra, aho. We never know. And when those people show up and they're there, even though they didn't have $5 or $20 or $30 or $40 or whatever it is, they show up and they share and they become a part of the whole. Not H-O-L, W-H-O-L-E. They become a part of the whole. And that's the most important part that I'm concerned with, being a part of the whole, being whole and wholesome. That's how I use the expression today with my friend Chris, being whole and wholesome. And, you know, I always thought that wholesome meant, you know, like the Brady Bunch, you know, white teeth and, you know, being white actually and being, you know, dressed a certain way. And no, being whole and wholesome means that, you know, your state of mind, your state of being, your state of spirit, your state of forgiveness, your state of forgiving, your state of being forgiven. You know, how you stand in your root chakra, how you connect to yourself and others. Aho. Is there a wall between you and me? Do you build that wall, or are you busy trying to tear it down? Aho. I hope you're busy trying to tear it down. But how is it you want to be in sobriety? 713-955-0332. Give us a call. Whether you're sober or not, whether you want to ask a question about sobriety or not, what is it you want to ask a question about? What is it that you want to say? What is it that you want to talk about? I am not here to set parameters and rules about how this show or what we talk about on this show. I know what I talk about. I know the medicine that I want to share and the medicine that I want to give and the arm that I want to extend out to those. But you may have something else that you need to talk about. Do not be shy. Do not be ashamed. Do not be afraid to call this number, 713-955-0332, and not say what you have to say, not ask for what it is that you need, not ask for what it is that you want. Call me. Say what you have to say. Stand in your power, aho, because that's what's most important, and that's what I talk about more than anything. Stand in the power of who you are and what it is you want for yourself and what it is you want to bring to the table. Do you want to bring something to the table? Have you been shamed and hurt so much that you're afraid to? Has anybody ever asked you that question? I'll ask you that question, and I'll say to you, come. Everybody is welcome on the journey that I'm on. Aho. Everybody is welcome. There's no 2x2 here, like Noah. There's no 2x2, two of anything. Just show up and be who you are, because I know that we are all special in our own way, in and of ourselves, and we will stand in our power the way we stand in our power. There's a reason that there's ash trees and oak trees and walnut trees and elm trees and crepe myrtle trees and cherry trees and red plum trees and pine trees and, you know, cedar trees, because they all stand in and of themselves in their way and give the gifts that they give, and they're the medicine that they are. Oh, and we are the same way as sober people, as loving people, as people who want what we want. Oh, 713-955-0332. You know, I have to tell you, I had a really rough weekend. You know, and like I said, I told you earlier, I reached out and people reached back, and I feel no shame about that. You know, and I talked about, I put out a couple of videos on social media, on Facebook, and I talked about walking the edge between spirit and man, spirit and earth, between spirit and Maya. Maya is a Hindi word for a material. Maya. You know, and what is material? It's the things that I want. It's the way that I feel. These feelings aren't real sometimes. These feelings are temporary, and they will go away and they will change, I hope. If I stand in my spirit and I stand in my creator, if I stand in things that I find as truth and I believe, I hope. And those things have changed and shifted over the last 25 years of sobriety. You know, I used to go to church. You know, I used to do other things, and I don't need to do those things anymore. You know, I do what I do now. And, you know, what is it that you want to do, and how do you want to do it? you know. It's just sobriety. But it's not just sobriety if you're trying to live a sober life. It's not just sobriety if you're wanting to be happy and find freedom. Freedom from judgment, freedom from shame, freedom from anger, freedom from self-judgment and self-loathing. You know, freedom is not having to explain anything to anybody. And my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous, David, he wrote that in the book that he gave me. You know, freedom is not having to prove anything to anybody. And I think that was said to him by his sponsor, John Flynn, who is now deceased and crossed over. And he's probably in this room with me now with all the rest of the spirits and the spirit guides and the spirit animals and the ancestors and the medicine men and the shamans and everybody else. It's, you know, the lineage, you know, because I have lineage in sobriety. You know, I just talked about my sponsor and his sponsor. I've had David as a sponsor for 25 years, over 25 years now. Now, there's not very many people who do that because there's people who will jump ship and go from sponsor to sponsor trying to get their nonsense validated. And David does not validate my nonsense. David talks to me in a way that's whole and wholesome and keeps me in my truth. It asks me questions. And I say, oh, I get angry. And then I hear the truth. And I hear the laughter. And I laugh at myself. You know? And David does that for me. And many people in Alcoholics Anonymous have done that for me. I have friends who have passed on, who have crossed over, who are no longer with me. You know, I have a friend named Debbie, Deborah Becker. You know, she passed away a few years ago, and I miss her dearly. Boy, do I miss my friend Deborah. You know, and my friend Wendy Jo Sperber, she was an actress, and she was on a show called Bosom Buddies, and she was my friend, and she loved me dearly, and she's the reason I moved back to Los Angeles from Tennessee. She said, come home. And she didn't want anything for me other than to be my friend, like I was her friend. I stood by her when other people just wanted to stand by her because she was a celebrity. I didn't care about her celebrity status. I cared about the person like she cared about me. And there's a lot to be said for that because this is Los Angeles. And people can be very superficial. And people live very superficial lives. And they live in front of the cameras because, you know, they're in front of the cameras. And my friend Wendy Jo was just there for me, and she was my friend, and so was my friend Deborah Becker. And they're here with me now. They're two of my spirit guides, and they're always with me, and they're here, and I love it. And I ask them to put their hands on my shoulders, to put their hands on my heart, put their hands on my cheek, or hold my hand, and they do that. You know, because I'm a sober man, and I live a sober life, and I learned how to give and not take. But I also learned how to ask for help, and it's not always easy. Not everybody will see it in that way, as I found out recently. I hope. I just found a place of peace. And I want to say something. Don't apologize for being you. I don't apologize for being me. I just got a message from somebody who I'm very fond of. And she's very dear to me. And she sent me a message because she's a really busy person, and we haven't been able to talk and see each other really the last few weeks, almost months. And I don't hold that against her. You know, she's got children. She's got a life that doesn't include me, but she includes me in her life anyway. And that's the blessing. You know, that's the blessing. You know, some people want to absorb all your time. Some people want to take up all your time, and you know who they are. They're energy suckers. They're people who are so insecure in their own life that they try to dominate your time and don't let you hang out with other people. Don't let you be with other people. Well, sobriety has shown me something else. Sobriety has taught me to show up and to understand and to be and to stand in a whole, not just stand in my power, but the power of others, stand in the power of my friend that I'm talking about, and understand that, you know, hi, human. She's got her own life that doesn't include me all the time. And I like that. I really, really, really like that. And I'm glad that I get these small reminders in that. And I got that reminder that I was talking about my friend Deborah Becker, and my friend Wendy Jo Sperber, who are my spirit guides, and they're in my life here today, even though they've been gone for years now. Oh. And Deborah was sober. And my friend Wendy Jo, she went to where she went. In fact, she started a organization through her cancer called We Spark here in Sherman Oaks, where they support people with cancer. They support the families of people with cancer, the friends of people with cancer, and they offer and provide services called We Spark. Look them up. Do a Google of We Spark. And they do fundraisers. And every now and again, they're going to ask for your money because they need money to keep operating, because Wendy Jo's gone now. Oh. And that's Wendy Jo's legacy. She had breast cancer that went through bone cancer that went to her brain. And the funny story is, one day I was walking down Ventura Boulevard, and I called her, and she answered the phone. She says, "Do me a favor." It made me laugh because it didn't make any sense. She said, "Hang up and call me back." She says, "Because I'll forget that you called." Because the cancer was already in her brain, and she was already starting to lose her faculties in that way. And that meant a lot to me. It meant that she loved me, that she wanted to hear from me, that she wanted me to call. And there was a time where I didn't see her for a long time because I think she didn't want me to know that she had cancer. And we didn't speak for a few years, and I missed those years. And I miss my friend today. But my friend is here in this room with me as I speak to you, and I carry my friend in my heart. I carry my friend in my soul. I carry my friend in my being. And she's in my tree. She's part of the fruit that you get to partake from as you nest in my tree. She's a part of that. Aho, as you will be. Aho. Sobriety can sometimes not be easy at all. Sobriety can be so overwhelming that the thinking and the feeling will overcome us, and we'll want to go out and use and drink and do things that, we find debaucherous. But if you can find the right person to stand with and say, "I need help, will you help me?" If you can let people know that you need help and that you're willing to do whatever they say, if you're willing to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, you will survive. Your life will transcend. Your life will transform. Your life will transmute. Your life will transition. Your heart and your emotions will change. And you won't even recognize yourself years from now, days from now, weeks from now, minutes from now, seconds from now. Oh. Are you willing to step into your power? Are you willing to dig deeper and ask the hard questions of your family without judging them, without holding their feet to the fire? Because holding their feet to the fire is not your business. It wasn't mine when I was doing it to my parents, and it was wrong of me. But I did it. And I'm sorry that I did it, because what I learned was they were just human doing the best that they could do. And sometimes that's it. And sometimes that's all. And there's nothing to blame in there anywhere. Oh. I've been sober a long time, 25 years, 25 plus years. Man, it's crazy. How did I get here? I didn't get here alone. I didn't do it by myself. There was over 100 people at the first meeting that I went to of my home group. It was a squared circle, and some of those people have been gone for years, for 20 years, They were sober 44 years at the time. A gentleman by the name of Mike Ross, he was an actor, and he would talk about being in the war, being in Burma, Guam, those places. And he was an amazing man. He was tall. He was skinny and bony, and he would stick his finger in my chest. And whenever I used foul language, he would say, "You don't have to use that language. You don't have to talk that way." And he would stick his finger in my chest, and I understood. I didn't argue with him. He was crusty, And to a degree, so am I in sobriety. I'm crusty because I don't mess around. I'm serious about what I talk about. I'm serious in a loving way. I'm serious in a caring way. How do you want to love? How do you want to care? How do you want to nurture? How do you want your sobriety to be nurtured and cared for? Do you care for your sobriety? Do you nurture your sobriety? Or are you just out there, being dry, bone dry, and complaining and whining and being angry about everything? Because we do that. Hi, human. But do you want to change? Like my friend Chris. I'm amazed to see Chris change and how she changed. I was just blown away by him today. When he said what he said to me. And, He's a good guy, and I'm looking forward to going to Rochester, New York, to be with him and his daughter, to see them someday. Because I told them I'm going to be traveling, and I know this to be true because I have said it. I have set my intention with that, to travel and to go to the places where people need my help and people need to hear what I have to say, and I need to hear what they have to say, and I want to hear what they have to share because they have so much to offer, just like I have. I'm not any different than they are. They are not any different than me. And I can't wait. I can't wait to go there and be with a friend like Chris, who's willing to stand in his sobriety and look at it in a different way and work it in a different way. How is it you want to work your sobriety? How is it you want to live as a sober person, as a clean person? And there's people who get caught up in the clean and sober and recovery and all those words. It's like, what? Don't do that to yourself. That sounds good, but it's like joining a gang. You're gonna have to defend it. Why do you have to defend it? There's no reason to defend it. Just be in it, be of it. But don't defend it. There's no reason to defend it. It's sobriety. It's a loving place to be. You too, me too, me too, you too. What is it that you want? Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? They say that in Alcoholics Anonymous all the time. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And be patient with yourself. Take it easy. You're not in a hurry to go anywhere in sobriety. You weren't in a hurry to go anywhere when you were drinking and using. When you were going to the dope man or you were going to the liquor store, you were not in a hurry to get anywhere but high and loaded. And that gummed up the works and allowed you to stay stuck and be stuck in a way that you couldn't find a way out of until you found the way out in sobriety, in recovery, in being clean. You were not in a hurry to go anywhere. So don't be in a hurry to get sober, to stay sober, to be something else, to be more than what you are right here, right now. Be in your ground, be in your feet, be in your root, but be right here, right now, today, in this very minute, not the next half hour, not early this morning, but right here, right now, not tomorrow, not next week. And I hear the crazies, and there's a lot of them who say, I have a recovery birthday coming up. I'm starting to get squirrely. What they don't know how to say is, I want attention, and you should know that it's my birthday. And can you acknowledge that my birthday's coming up? It's like, really? I when my recovery birthday comes up, I show up and I take a simple cake, probably once or twice, and I'm done. But not everybody's like that. Some people have not recovered from they have not transformed from the seemingly state of mind and body, and they want the attention that they want because they don't know how to give themselves the attention when they wake up in the morning, and they don't know how to come up into their body and be with ground and be with Mother Earth and ground and breathe into their bodies to be with themselves. They don't know how to look in the mirror and look at themselves and brush their own teeth instead of looking over their shoulder to see who's coming up behind them in the mirror. Never mind. When you're driving down the freeway, drive your own car. I'm feeling squirrely because my birthday's coming up. Just say you want attention. I know what that is, but I don't feel like I need to ask for that because I'm at peace with myself and I'm okay with it. I don't need your. My name is Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow. And today we have been talking about recovery, sobriety, being clean, and what it's like to be conscious and aware in your body, in your life, in your sobriety. This, my friends, is a transformational sacred drum medicine show. And I want to thank you for coming and listening to the wisdom that I've learned over the years. And I want to thank one more time my producer, Tiffany White, for allowing me and others like me to stand in my power, to stand in my place, to extend my branches into the heavens and allow others to nest in my branches and eat of my fruit. I want to thank you for coming to the Tuesday edition of the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show, and I bid you good day. Aho.
Outside the office, you exercise, eat right, but being healthy shouldn't stop when you sit down at your desk. People say sitting is the new smoking. But what can you do? Check out VariDesk, the original and easiest way to stand and sit while you work. It's simple and height adjustable with no assembly or new office furniture required. Find the size that's perfect for your desk at varidesk.com. Stand, sit, feel better. Go to varidesk.com and work the way you live. VariDesk. Work elevated.